Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Stand Up Guy Radio, episode 27. We got a great show for you tonight. Thank you for listening. And it wouldn't be a show, it wouldn't be Stand Up Guy Radio without my co-host. You know him, from Cuba, lives in Miami now. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome my co-host, Al Romero, everybody. Al Romero is here.
How you doing, my friend?
What's going on, buddy?
Well, not much, but I have the pleasure today of introducing a man that I literally owe my career to, Lonnie Shorr. It's a legend in stand-up comedy, has opened with all the major stars in the country and music world.
Yeah.
Used to be on TV. The man, and like I said, you know, he's my mentor, he's my friend, he's the man that I owe my career to.
Because now you owe your career to Mark Zuckerberg because you're on Facebook all
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. But up to then, it was Lonnie Shorr. Yeah.
Yeah, Lonnie Shorr. Yeah, I was reading about him. It's so great. I can't wait to hear all this, hear this story and how it changed your life and everything. So why don't we just bring him in?
Let's do that. Let me introduce him.
Okay, so you introduce him.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with the greatest of pleasure that I introduce this man, my friend, my mentor, the man I owe my career to, the one and only Lonnie Shorr.
There he is.
There he is. How are you, Lonnie?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Do I
Pretty
have to
good.
talk like this the whole time?
No, you don't. You come back to your North Carolina accent.
I'm just trying to do what I can for our immigration system.
Well, you already did. You already done everything you can. You did more than you could.
Okay, guys.
Okay. Well, listen. Let me tell the audience a little bit about you. This man have opened, have worked, have been in every Las Vegas hotel room, the main room. Working with some of the biggest stars in the country and music world. He has also been on TV. I remember him, my first recollection of Lonnie is on the Dean Martin Comedy Hour when he used to play the barber, when Dean Martin used to sit on the barber chair and Lonnie used to pretend to cut his hair and tell him jokes. That's my first recognition of him. Then I started working at a little club in Hollywood Beach, Florida, where I started. And Lonnie started hanging around. Introduced himself, was very supportive of all of us. He said to me one time, I'm pretty good friend with Merv Griffin. Whenever you feel like you're ready, let me know. Maybe I can, get you an audition. Well, 1 year to me doing this, I got to Lonnie and said, hey, I think I'm ready. He looks at me like I have 7 heads. I go, what do you mean you're ready? I said, no, I think I am.
I told you you were ready. I told you didn't need to audition either.
I know. I did, but, it turned out to be great, that audition, because my audition gave me the opportunity for Mitzi to see me and be able to get a TV show. Yeah, it worked out great. And I was telling Mike, there's some times in your life, there life defining moments. And that was it for me. That changed my entire life. And I'm not exaggerating. It really, literally changed my entire life. And I owe it to that man right there.
I appreciate it, Al. But you know what? It all boils down to what you did.
Well, I did have to pull it off. But, hey, listen.
You have to...
Yeah. But I've always said, listen, you need help to walk in the room. You need talent to stay in it.
That's true.
But you need the help. And you gave me that help, man. If it wasn't for you, how long would it have taken me to get a national TV show if it wasn't for you? Who knows? It could have been 5, 10 years.
To talk English.
Well, I tell you what, Al, I know you a long time, Al, and I see you perform all the time, and I think you're ready too.
I'm ready now.
I think you're ready for the Merv Griffin Show again.
You can only dig him up.
So, Lonnie, tell our audience, the 3 people that watch us, tell them how you got started in the business.
Well, it's like any other business. I think you go from one level to another level, and then if you're lucky, another level. And when I first went into the business, I thought that you had to be like a New York comedian because they were the ones that were getting the club dates and getting this. And then I found out you don't have to be like them. So instead of working in New York and those kind of places, I cut my teeth in Oklahoma, in Georgia.
Wow.
Not in comedy clubs because they didn't have them then, but
Right.
I worked in places like the Grange. You know what the Grange is? The Grange is the biggest farmers organization throughout the country. So they're all farmers. I worked in those kind of places. There was a guy in Birmingham, Alabama, who put together, that was the first time I ever went on the road. He put together a package show. We called it something about Vegas. And none of us had ever been to Vegas. I had never been, but it was myself, a girl singer, a girl tap dancer, 4 musicians, and a 355-pound drummer in a Ford station wagon pulling a U-Haul trailer. And we did one-nighter from one place. We did 11,000 miles. And that'll teach you, that'll make you learn your craft in a hurry.
Wow.
And so that I went from doing those kind of things. And then I finally got, there was a guy in Virginia that used to book all the service clubs, officers clubs, NCO clubs on the bases. So I did those for a long time. And finally I was working in Omaha, Nebraska with, actually she wasn't a stripper. She was a very famous fan dancer, Sally Rand.
Oh yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was old when she worked in 1932. This is in the late 60s, and she was already doing so I worked with her, and she asked me if I had a manager. I said, no, I don't. And I got a guy from Chicago called me, and he said, come in here, we'll get you. Because at that time, Chicago had a lot of club dates. You could work within a 200-mile radius of Chicago and work almost every 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week. So I went to Chicago, I stayed there, and he got me the Playboy clubs. Now, Playboy clubs, to differentiate them from comedy clubs, you had already had to have been fairly well established to work their circuit, because they had some pretty good names. I mean, they had, Pat Morita, they had a lot of good names, Mort Saul, they had all these names. So they gave me 2 dates to do as a tryout date, one in New Orleans and one in Montreal, which are 2 completely different genres, if you've ever worked both those places. So apparently I did well the first in New Orleans, and I did well in Montreal. So they gave me about, at that time, I think they must have had about maybe 10 clubs that they had. And it was a great, I'm so thankful for them, because I learned the niche that I wanted to work in. I didn't really know which way I wanted to go at the time. I didn't want to be like the New York comics, and thank goodness, because that's what set me off differently from them. So I worked them for about maybe 2 years. I had never done any television at all, except for a couple of regional things. And then I was working in New York Playboy Club. And there was a guy on the bill with me named Johnny Johnson, who had a cover for a record called, I think it was Joni Mitchell or Judy Collins, one of those girls, called Both Sides Now. You remember that song?
Yeah, I remember the song, yeah.
So he had a record that made a little bit of noise on it. And he had gotten somebody from William Morris to come over and see him. And he was opening the show, and there's this little old man sitting in the corner, about, I don't know how, in the late 60s, had his overcoat on. He was right. So he was the one that came in to see him. So his check was late. I'll show you how fate works sometimes. His check was late and he had to wait. And now I came on in the meantime. And I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and he got up to leave, and then he listened for a minute, and he sat down. So afterwards, he came over to me and he gave me his card. His name was Harry Kalshine from the William Morris office. So I called afterwards a friend of mine who was you may not know him, but he started late night television, named Jerry Lester.
I know who Jerry Lester is.
House. So he was like a mentor to me before I even got into the business. So I said, does the name Harry Kalshine mean anything at William Morris? He said, how does owner sound? And he was one of the original guys that started. He and his brother and Abe Lasvogel. So to make a long story short, the next night, he had every agent in the variety division of William Morris come in to see me. And they asked to sign me that night. And I just signed with the manager at that time. So we went over and I said, fine with me. I signed all these papers and they right away put me with, I think it was Sergio Franchi. You remember him?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
And they had 10 dates for the Boys Town of Italy. And that was some combination. It was Sergio and myself, they all went great. And they had all these things. They were going to get you this. And of course, agencies were going to do this. We're going to do that for you, but they never comes to fruition. But they did that night after they came in to see me. That was like a Tuesday night. On Wednesday, I had the Merv Griffin Show. On Friday, I had the David Frost Show.
Wow.
That was that same week. And I'm like, what the hell is happening here? And then they got me all these other dates that, like, I worked Sutton Miller's in Dayton and
I worked that place.
Yeah, did you?
I got fired from there.
You got fired from there?
Yes, because I did the original TV show, the one that I don't remember who the guy was, and I went there to promote the show for that place, and I said hell and damn.
Oh, you can't say that.
I know.
And that's funny.
I know. The next thing I know, I got fired.
That's funny. But I worked those kind of places. There were, at those days, this was like in the 70s, there were a ton of them. I worked the Holiday House in Pittsburgh, the Caesar Tomango's Monticello outside of Boston. So I worked all these places that I never knew existed. I mean, they were already big time for me. And I started doing television, and they put me with Dionne Warwick. She liked me, and she opened a lot of doors for me. And I went eventually. They got me a deal at I got the Dean Martin show before Vegas, and they used that as a big like a come on, the Comedy Star, the Dean Martin show, those kind of things. And I guess it meant something to them, but they liked me in Vegas. Got great reviews. I'll show you sometimes. I think I saved them from the opening night in Vegas. And from there, Merv liked me. So I had a deal with them where anytime I wanted to go do the show, all I'd do was call them. I didn't have to go through, I think Les Sinclair was the booker at the time. But
yes, he was.
Was tell Merv, and he would tell them, and I'd say, I'm going to be in town. And I did, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 to 7 to 10 a year. But then ended up doing we tried to figure it out. It was over 100. And then from there, I did a lot of Dinah Shore. I did her show about 15 times. And in the 70s, you could go to LA if they accepted you, and you could do the Tonight Show, which I did a couple of times. You could do Merv Show, Mike Douglas, Dinah Shore, Jim Neighbors. So you could go do. I was very lucky to be able to do it at my whenever I was there. So it looked like I was on television almost every day, and you could do the whole, like 5, 6 shows a week in 1 week. And then you had game shows, which I did a lot of those. And game shows were great because you did 5 shows a night. So that's a whole week work in 1 night. So I did a whole season of a show called Break the Bank for ABC. And I did one for
Break the Bank. Was that the guy that did the original Jeopardy host?
it was
Arling?
Tom Kennedy.
Oh no, it's different. Yeah, I know who Tom Kennedy is, but no, that's not who I was thinking of.
Yeah, Tom Kennedy and Hollywood Squares I did with one of my dear friends now, Peter Marshall. And when you start doing those things, I mean, I'm looking, you do television, you say, well, who's going to see it? Well, I'll do it. I even did.
Everybody.
Yeah, but I did these things, and I remember later on I was working with the Carpenters, and before I was getting, when I first started in Vegas, I was getting like maybe 50% billing, my first job. Then they upped me after a couple of dates, and I ended up getting co-headliner billing.
Wow.
I got 100% billing because I put some asses on the seats.
Because of the TV shows.
Yeah, because I ended up getting a little following in Nevada, Reno, Tahoe, and Vegas. And people would come from all, they came from all over. So they started to be where they knew who I was. And I said, well, I do these shows and who the hell is going to see them? I was working with the Carpenters in Nacogdoches, Texas, in a high school gym. And when I walked in, as there had been a situation in the game show, Break the Bank, where they go from the bottom, there was a line of people at the top, one on the side, and they correlate the thing. Like if they say, well, I want to answer number 6, and they would go this way, and then that way. Well, I hadn't answered a question in 5 shows. They just didn't pick me, and it got to be a running thing. So I got a lot of camera time from that. And we were in Nacogdoches, and I walk in on the stage, and there's kids, like, high school kids, holding up signs saying, Lonnie, when you want to answer a question? And I'm thinking, oh, you watch these shows?
You can't buy that, man. You can't buy that kind of stuff.
No.
It's organic,
It's amazing.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun, and it was it's not like it is today, unfortunately. I would like for you to have experienced a lot of that stuff.
I wish I would. I came a little late for that, but yeah, I wish I did. Now, let me ask you a question. Let me regress there because
one second. I just want to ask one quick question. So, Lonnie, have you ever worked Cincinnati? Because that's where I'm from.
Sure. First job I ever got fired on. My first job on the road. I got fired. Well, I wasn't really fired. I worked a place called the Cock and Bull on Reading Road.
Reading Road, yeah.
Yeah. And I went out the opening night, and it was the first job I ever had on the road. I had one job before that at the Gettysburg, Pennsylvania Moose Club with a girl tap dancer and a guy that filled bedpans with water and hit them with a stick and played the bells of St. Mary's. There were like 3 people in the audience in Cincinnati. And after about the 3rd day, I went over to the owner. I said, this isn't working out really well, is it? No, he said, it isn't. I said, okay. I said, but one of these days, I'm coming back here. And the owner, the guy was a guy who wrote for the paper. And he came in with another guy, another comic. I can't think of his name, Al. But he was like a rubber face, and he did mugging and all this stuff. He was like a big star in Cincinnati. And I said, one of these days, and as it happened, I did show him. I came back, let's see, maybe, God, I don't know how many years later, 1982, in the arena, what was that big arena where they played basketball or something?
Yeah, they had the arena, and they had the Coliseum, and then they had.
I think it was the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Because we had like we had about 19,000 people. And I was on, Kenny Rogers and I were on
Yeah.
tour together.
Yeah.
And Kenny was drawn like crazy. I had maybe 100 people knew me there, but they knew when I left. And I did well. And I think that guy that wrote the paper was there that night. And I wanted to, and I didn't know where he was. I said, but if you're here, I told you years ago. And that was my Cincinnati experience.
Nice.
But that was another experience. Anything, working those big arenas. I mean,
Oh man, that must have been something. Yeah. What I
it
wanted
was
to ask you, Rick Rest, because I'm a big Dionne Warwick fan. I've read a lot about her. She said that she used to throw up every night before she went on stage. Did you ever witness
she never
any of
threw
that?
up on me. But I'll tell you, I love Dionne, and I became very friendly with. She had the best backup singers ever. She had her sister Dee Dee Warwick, who was a really good singer, and her aunt was Sissy Tyson Houston, who was Whitney Houston's mother.
Right.
And I used to call her Aunt Sissy. I used to open the door. Aunt Sissy, what are you doing? So Dionne asked for me to go with, I said, of course. And she could be tough. When we worked the Ambassador Hotel in LA, I saw her fire the entire orchestra before we opened that night, opening day. She didn't like the way they were playing. She fired everybody except one trumpet player.
Wow.
And I mean, that took a lot of something to do that.
That takes some balls.
Round up 30 pieces. She had a big, huge orchestra.
Wow.
And she was doing, I'll tell you what she did that I'd never seen since. She did an opening medley, and she sang it all the way through of all her songs, all her hits. So her opening number lasted 34 minutes.
Holy Jesus.
I said,
oh
I told her afterwards, I said, Dionne, you can't just go out and do one number. you gotta dance or do something. And she was great.
Well,
that was a great what's it? I'll tell you, Al. While I was on, that was like a sacred room. It was the original Coconut Grove. And
yes.
They changed the name. Sammy Davis had it called the Now Grove. So I'm out there doing it, and I'm looking out in the audience, and I'm seeing Burt Bancroft and what was his wife's name?
You mean his husband?
Anne Bancroft?
Oh,
yeah, it was. Oh God, I can't. I'm blanking on his name now.
Blonde-haired lady.
Mel Brooks.
No, it's a girl.
Anne Bancroft.
No, that's Mel Brooks' wife.
Right.
Oh God. Angie Dickinson.
Oh, Angie Dickinson.
Oh yeah.
And she was sitting cross-legged, and she had the greatest legs.
Oh yeah.
So, and she was sitting with Bill Russell and everything, and I hear this laugh, and I hear when people laugh and they bang the table, and I'm thinking, wow, that's really great. I'm getting whoever that guy is. I want to take him with me. So afterwards, we're backstage, and I had forgotten something in the dressing room. I went back, and it was Jack Benny was standing there. So I went up to him. I said, Mr. Benny, he said, you're the comedian. And he did Jack Benny, man. He said, well, he says, you heard me laugh, didn't you? I said, was that you? He was the greatest audience you ever had in your life. Yeah.
That's all he took.
You know what? About 6 months later, I'm opening at Mr. Kelly's in Chicago. First place I ever really headlined. And I look in the lobby. I'm going to go to, because the Ambassador, I was staying at the Ambassador Hotel, which is in Chicago, but a block away from Kelly's. And there's Jack Benny getting his mail. So he's not going to remember me, but I'll go over and say hello. So I said, Mr. Benny, I don't know if you remember me. He turned around and he said, I was talking about you last night on to, what was the guy's name? Had a big local show there.
Wow.
He says, and I was telling him that, and I said, I'm thinking, well, it's really nice of him to say that, but he had, probably didn't have. So go to Kelly's, and we had a bunch of about 10 convention guys were in town. And they could, after the show, they said, we came to see you because we heard we saw Jack Benny on TV last. I said, he really did say that.
Wow.
What a nice thing for him to do.
Well, let me tell you something about Lonnie. Lonnie not only worked with his big stars, he became good friends with his big stars, which tells you something about it, because you can work with people and be your opening act or your call headliner, but to become personal friends and lifelong friends, that tells you the type of individual this man is. Because all these people became your personal friends, right?
Well, Kenny Rogers and I used to live together. And I was there when he didn't have 15 cents in the bank this was in 76 when he came. I remember we were staying, if you know LA out, we were staying about a block from the UCLA Medical Center on Tiverton and LeConte. He had a little house, and I was staying with him and Mary Ann. And he came back, he was going to quit. He was ready to quit. He was going to become a photographer. He said, I can't do. I said, Kenny, you got to get it another couple weeks at least. He had just come back. He went away for about 4 days, and he came back from Nashville. He said, and he had never been. Everybody on our group, Mel Tillis and Glenn, we all had been after him to do a country music. So he came back and he said, listen to this. And he put this record on. He says, what do you think about it? I said, I think it's going to sell a lot of beer because it's one of those records you play in these roadhouses. And I said, it's great for that genre. It was Lucille, which was his first big. You picked a lot of times. So from there, he got The Gambler. And then he was a phenomenon. I mean, he called me about, I don't know, maybe a year or two. It was 1980. He says, how much did you make this year? So I told him, he says, well, I'm gonna make you richer. So I'm not rich now. He said, well, I want you to go with me, because at that time he was using 2 other acts on the show with him. He had Dolly Parton on one, and so I said, well, who's going to be on the show? It's you, me, and the Gatlin brothers, who I knew, and Larry, Steve, and Rudy I knew very well. So I said, oh, this is going to be fun. So we started working, and I had never worked a venue that big. The first one was 18,000 seats.
Holy Jesus.
Worked in the Round. Have you ever worked in the Round?
Yes, at the theater in Long Island.
Yeah, I worked there many times. Yeah. But
you got to get used to that with the moving around,
I loved it. That was my favorite way to work. And that was the first time I'd worked there. Once you find out how to work it, it was great. And we worked, I think, 13 nights out of every month. So for a year, we were doing over, like, I don't know how many is that, 200 shows, whatever it is. And in between, I'd go back to Vegas for a couple of weeks, and Kenny and I worked Vegas together. And before that, I had a really good relationship with, the important thing was that I wasn't, if you say, oh, well, he's his friend, and that's why he's got these dates. A lot of comedians thought that in the beginning, but no, I was doing those dates because he knew I was putting some butts on the seats, and the reviews were great. But my managers at the time were Shapiro West, George Shapiro, and Howard West.
Those are the biggest ones in the business, man.
Yeah, well, that was before Jerry's show cut that, but they still had a lot of big names. They had some big writers and everything.
That was also Letterman's managers.
They had a lot of
David Letterman's manager.
And Andy Kaufman. They had Sam Denoff, who was a good producer. There had a lot of producers and writers. But Howard was trying to get me with Glenn Campbell, because when he was with William Morris, he he was responsible for the show. So he took a tape of mine, I think it might have been a Mike Douglas show and a Dinah Shore show. It was one of those things. And he tried to get them to look at it. He went to and I'll always be grateful for Howard. One of my biggest regrets in the whole world was leaving them, because we were real friends. And Howard went to the golf course where Glenn was playing, and he waited for him to get off the golf course and made him sit down and look at my tape. And Glenn, and then I had like a tryout, see how I would do with him. But it's an interesting story. The first night, am I talking too much?
No, we want to hear all this. You kidding me?
Well, let me tell you, the first night the first date was at the Shady Grove Music Theater, and it was a big theater outside of Washington. So the night before, Kenny and I were going to go do this. Kenny was busted then. I mean, he was really busted. I was going to do the Mike Douglas show in Philadelphia. So we go do the show, and my mother was living at the time in Maryland. So we came back, we had dinner, and we stayed with my mom for a while. We talked to her, and Kenny was calling his wife on the phone. I forgot which number it was. I think it was number 3, number 2.
You're talking about wives.
Yeah. So the operator busted in. She said, I have an emergency call for Lonnie Shorr. So Kenny said, oh, when he gives me the phone, and it was Howard West. Howard says, are you okay? I said, yeah, what do you mean? Yeah. He said, you weren't in an accident or anything? I said, no. He says, because you're supposed to be on stage right now with Campbell. I said, that's tomorrow night. Because they always open those theaters. There were 5 of them. They always open on Tuesday. And I said, Monday. He said, no, they opened Monday. This one opened. I went, oh, geez. It took so hard to get this date. And so, and that I'm sorry, we didn't do the Douglas show then. We just had dinner that night. The next day was the dinner show. And my plans were, I was going to go do the Douglas show, come back, and then the next night do this. Coming back from Philadelphia, we get outside of Wilmington, and the train dies. It just stops. And I'm thinking, oh my God, 2 nights in a row, they're not going to believe this at all. Finally, I got there, it must have been about 7:30. And, when you first meet somebody, you get kind of an instinct if you're going to have a relationship, or if this guy is, he's really good. I'm in this big chorus room by myself. I don't know the guys in his band. All they know is that they had to go out and work extra because I wasn't there the night before. And Glenn had to go out and do extra. So I knock on the door. Glenn Campbell opened, and I was a big fan of his. He opens the door, stuck his head in, didn't say a word. He just smiled. And I looked at him and went, he shook his head, and from that day we were like this. I said something special here, and the nice compliment. The guy, one of the guys in his band, his bass player, came over to me after I got off at intermission. He said, "Where have you been all our lives?"
That's nice.
That's really nice, man. And we did a lot of things, and we lived together too. When Glenn got kicked out of his house, I was with him. We stayed in a hotel together.
So you seem to be the friend that everybody runs to when their wife kicks them out.
Well, you know what? You're right. Kenny did that.
Yes.
Yes, he came here, stayed here.
Yeah.
For about a week. Shecky Green did that. Came here I couldn't get rid of him. He started a fight with everybody in this building, but he didn't. But and a lot of those guys. Mel Tillis was a real good friend of mine. The Gatlin boys are real good friends of mine.
Mike Davis.
It was lucky that you worked when country had a resurgence. I said, you know what? if you look at my resume, I did work with a lot of country people, but I never changed my act, what I did, the content, which was very, very topical, and nobody was doing that at the time. But I work with Duke Ellington's orchestra. I work with Sarah Vaughan. I work with a wide range of people, and I never changed anything. I changed, and I found that's the best way. You know, Buddy Hackett one time told me, he said, you got to let the audience like you. And a lot of guys would go out, like if they were working in the South or something, and they put the people down. And I never did that. They would give them that New York thing.
Right.
But, it's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of experiences, man.
Man, you've had a hell of a career, buddy. You really have. I mean, really, seriously. And let me ask you a question.
Is it over now?
What?
Is it over?
No.
Oh,
No, we're just getting started.
I'm glad.
You're just getting started.
Oh, he means his career.
I have one date I have to cancel if that.
He means his career.
No, I meant he's been a hell of a career up to this moment. That's what I meant.
Okay, good. Yeah, right.
And he's going to continue, you know? You're gonna be like Dick Sharp. You know Dick Sharp?
Dick
Sharp. Dick Sharp, a comedian. Dick Sharp died on stage telling a joke.
You're not saying Dick Shawn, are you?
Maybe I'm getting the name confused. I thought it was
Spell
Sharp.
it,
Sean.
Spell it in English.
Listen, I'm having enough trouble having this conversation. So anyways, you know who I'm talking about, right? He died on stage telling a joke.
Dick Shawn.
That's it.
He's telling me Dick Sharp. I told you Dick Shawn. Sure, I knew him.
Yeah.
You know, and you know the bit that he was doing when he died? He said, suppose I'm the last man on the face of the earth. And then he just dropped down.
Oh,
Wow.
And he just lay there, and nobody moved, and his son was in the audience, and his son was about 15 or 16. His son said, this isn't supposed to be like this. And sure enough, he ran up on stage and he was dead.
Wow. Well, that's going to be you. They're going to have to drag you off the stage, my friend.
Doing Dick Shawn's act.
Yes. But what got you into wanting to be a stand-up comedian? I mean,
well, you know, I was always like the class clown. And when I got out of, in my senior year in college, you know, you start to think about, well, the next year I'm not coming back to Richmond. What am I going to do? So I had met this guy, Jerry Lester's brother was a guy named Buddy Lester, who you would know if you saw him. He was in Ocean's 11 and everything. But to me, before I was even old enough, the guys, you know, I play a lot of tennis, you know that. And the guys that I played tennis with, the older guys, they said, there's a comedian we want you to see. This was in Baltimore. They took me to see Buddy Lester. And he was the funniest, he's still to me, the funniest saloon comic I've ever seen. He was hysterical. And we introduced ourselves. They introduced me to him. And he became like, you know, if I had a question, I'd call him or I'd get, and I said, I'd really love to be able to do that. And I thought, well, what would happen if I didn't do this? And 20 years from now, look down the road and say, I could have tried to do that. And so I said, I'm going to give it a shot. And I did. And
you know, in life, the things you regret are not the things that you did, it's the things that you didn't do.
Yeah. Wait, I want to get a pen. I want to write that down.
Yeah, you better write this.
Well, you know, you remember things like that. When I went to William Morris, Mr. Calshon sent me a letter, and he was a guy that pretty damn big, in pencil. He wrote, I still have it. And he said to me, don't make the mistake of talking too much about being Jewish in the South. He says, because then you'll only be another mountain comic from another set of mountains.
Okay.
And I thought about that, and I said, he was absolutely right on.
Yeah.
He was on.
Did you ever mention your ethnicity on stage?
Maybe as like a throwaway thing, but nothing. I didn't build a piece on it or anything, you know. So it was a great piece of advice, because it would have been very easy to, you know, capitalize on that.
By the way, Mr. Kelly's the first place I ever saw a stand-up comedian perform, and I was mesmerized. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it was. Buddy was so good, and the greatest thing that you can have. He came to see me in Las Vegas. I was at the MGM Grand, and he called backstage. I had just gotten off stage, and he said, "I'm in the lobby." He said, "You think they'll let me back?" I said, "Will they let you back?" Oh, you know. So I sent them. One of the captains down, he got him, brought him up, and he gave me I've got the picture in here. He said, "I'm very proud of you." And that, to me, that was the greatest thing that anybody could have said. That Buddy Lester said that to me.
That's great.
He was wonderful, you know. And that was the, I'm trying to think of that. That was during the summer. And in November, I was back there, and that's when the MGM was on fire. I was in the fire.
Were you there when it got to fire? Oh,
yeah,
were you performing?
I was a hero, Al. Yeah.
Really? How?
No, actually, I helped carry an old lady and her husband. He was a doctor, down 16 flights of stairs. I thought they were going to have to get a resuscitator for me after that was over, but it was a harrowing experience. I didn't realize how bad it was until I got outside of it.
Let me tell you another thing about Lonnie, okay? Lonnie is smaller than me, and he's one of the toughest guy I ever seen, man. He doesn't take shit. Doesn't take shit from anybody. I seen him. There was a comedian in Fort Lauderdale. I don't want to mention names, who was had an attitude about him, and he said something to Lonnie, man, and Lonnie got on his face. And this guy was much bigger than him. Got on his face and just read in the riot act. The guy just walked away with his tail between his legs and walked away.
We won't tell you his name, but his initials were Dwight Hickman.
That was the initials, yeah. Oh God, what an attitude he had, huh?
Well, you know what? I didn't like anybody messing with, you know, with our business or with putting on airs and everything, especially now, because I've been there, and I want to say, you know, you remember on Gilligan's Island, the lady that played the old rich lady.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, before she got that series, I knew she must have had 50 years of experience on the Broadway stage and traveling in bus and truck companies. And she was up after Gilligan's Island. She was up for a pilot or a series on CBS. And she walked into the first meeting with one of these 25-year-old wonders. And he says to her, the first thing, "Tell me what you've done." And she said, "You first."
What a great line. That's a great line. Yeah.
But that's great. I mean, that's the right attitude.
That's right. Another thing I learned from him, he taught me this. You got to have fuck you money in this business. You know what fuck you money is, Mike?
It's the money you spend on hookers.
No, that's the money you keep in your pocket. When somebody offers you something, tell them, "Fuck you, I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's a great lesson, man.
If you don't have to do it, don't do it.
Exactly.
John,
Mike, do you have any specific questions for Lonnie that you want to know about?
Well, the fuck you money thing. I think John Goodman has a scene in a movie where he explains that to somebody, just like that. No, I'm totally enjoying Atlas, listening to your journey. It's amazing. But what did you want to be before? When you were younger, like a kid, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a teenager. You know what, Mike? I didn't know what I wanted. I always had this thing about show business in my head.
Oh, you always had it. Okay.
Well, and when when I got to a point where I'm going to graduate in a month, what am I going to do? You know, I thought about getting things as a profession as close to show business as I could. I thought about like advertising and public relations. I thought, well, I'd be good at that, you know, something like that. And after getting all these rejection letters from all these big corporations, I said, I'm gonna try and do this.
Is that what your degree in college is?
No,
Advertising?
my degree was in political science and history.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have a double major, and one of them is history. I love history.
Well, I thought you majored in revolution.
Well, no, the Revolution is my book, which standing here is right there.
It is revolution. I
There it
still
is.
haven't gotten that. I got to go get that.
No, I'm gonna sign you a book. I feel like an idiot. By
No,
the way, I'm
bring
still
it.
pissed off at you. You didn't let me buy you lunch, by the way.
Bring it with you.
I wouldn't bring you, and I'm buying you lunch this time. Okay?
Okay.
Don't pull
It's a
that shit
deal.
on me
You
again.
got to use American dollars though.
Well, I don't know. I'll use whatever I can, but I'm paying.
Okay, man. Well, I'm glad that you turned out the way you did. And I'm
Lonnie, I will be grateful for the rest of my life to you because I'm telling you, I know you're poo-pooing in and you're saying whatever. What you did for me, first of all, you didn't owe me that. You didn't have to put yourself on the line to do that. And what you did for me was life-changing. I changed my life, and you were one of the main instruments that helped me do that.
You know what? When all this crap is over with this, I think I told you I had a piece that I've written with called "A View from the Front Porch," which is basically doing your act, but bringing some friends in. And it's like when we were in North Carolina, you sat on the front porch, somebody played music, somebody talked about the world affairs, and that's what. And maybe we get a theater, we'll do that, and you can do that.
I would love to do that. Are you kidding me? I'll cut my arm off to be able to work with you in that setting. I would love that.
We'll think about doing something like that.
Definitely.
That way we don't need the rest of them people. I've got some guys in Nashville that are going to come up and would do it with me, and they are
great.
Some of the best.
That's great.
If hopefully we can do something. That's what's fun when you can work with your friends.
Well, listen, I am going to this week. Believe it or not, I'm working a lot. I have about 5 shows this week.
Where down here?
No, actually, 2 of them is in Port St. Lucie, and one of them is in the West Coast on Port Charlotte. I'm doing all the ports.
Port St. Lucie is not that far.
Well, it's a country club. It's not a comedy club. It's a country club. I just worked one with Mike. Mike was booking one in Bonita Springs, and I just did that this weekend.
I worked Bonita Springs.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
A
lot of rich people there.
Bonita Springs, Bonita National Golf and Country Club is a pretty high up place. It's pretty. I mean, for people to live there, and we did some great shows there. We had a good time. Yeah,
we did. It was a great show.
What nights are you working in Port St. Lucie?
I'm working Thursday and Friday.
Thursday and Friday. Let me see what I got. Maybe I can get up that way or something.
Well, let me know, and I'll send you the address. I'll come pick you up. Damn it! I'll come pick you up.
Well, yeah, I know. My girl's coming. She left, but she's coming back. I don't know when she's coming back. Maybe one day this week. But I'll talk to you before.
You let me know, and I'll come pick you up, and we'll go to the show. And the booker will be.
So tell the booker to book you down this way closer.
God damn it! I'm gonna have to learn how to do it.
Someplace down here that you work?
Down here?
Yeah.
Well, I was working the Boca Black Box, but they're not doing it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, they're not doing anything though. I mean, they're not getting anybody there.
Well, make sure you let me know when you're down this way.
I will definitely
I'll bring
do that.
some people in.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, we will.
Well, Lonnie, it has been a pleasure to have you here. I was so happy when we connected again a couple of weeks ago, because I've been I've been wanting to see you. I've been wanting to look you in the eye and thank you for everything you did for me. And I'm glad I did that. I'm still pissed off that I didn't buy you lunch. And I'm going to bring you my book. I'm going to sign it and give it to you. I hope you read it and give me some feedback.
Absolutely. Call me sometime this week or something, and let's set up a date.
Okay, we'll do. Well, I'll call you tomorrow. You let me know how Thursday and Friday looks for you.
Okay, great. Mike, it was nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you, Lonnie. Good to hear. Love your stories. Congratulations on your successful career and many more years, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And now
Thank you so much.
See you all later.
See you.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. So we're still on. So that was fascinating.
What a career, huh?
Yeah.
What a career, man, this guy had.
I mean, because I grew up in Cincinnati, and like my mom listened to country music, and so all those Glenn Campbell and all those people, like I really wasn't into country music, but she was, and I was just like, and I know the TV shows. I mean, I've watched all those TV shows too.
Well, the thing with Lonnie is that he's well known for being a co-headliner in Vegas with all these country and music acts, but he worked with everybody. Like he was saying, Dionne Warwick and Thank You Frankie. So he was not limited only to the country and Western side of show business. Yeah. He worked everywhere.
Well, that's what Glenn Campbell said I was looking at his website, and that's what Glenn Campbell said about he appealed to everyone.
Yeah, he is. I mean,
I didn't even know he was
a likable guy. Man.
I didn't know he was Jewish.
Yeah, I know. That's the Jewish guy from the South with a Southern accent. Isn't that something?
I thought his name sounded Jewish, but then I was like, he doesn't sound. He did. I would have never thought he was Jewish.
No. It sounds like a Southern guy. He looked like a good old boy.
The only thing that made me think he was Jewish is he wanted to be in show business.
Exactly. But listen, I'm not exaggerating, man. I owe man everything. I mean, I can tell you, Mike, I don't know if I would have hung on. I don't know if I would have taken 4 or 5 years in order to get to TV. I mean, it happened to me so quick, and it happened to me so quick because of him, and everything happened right after. From that, everything that was the genesis of my career, and like I said, I will always be indebted to him. Wow,
well, he is such a likable guy.
Yes, man, he's very likable.
He really took a liking to you too.
No, he did, man. He did. I mean, he put his arms around me, and he was my mentor, man. I mean, he came up to me at that time and said, you're very funny. I mean, like I said, the fact that I connected with him again. I was over the moon when I was able to connect with him again.
That's awesome. So listen, let's go ahead and sign off and hang on for a second so I can talk to you.
Okay.
But listen, everybody, thank you for watching and liking and listening. Please share. Please like our show. And we had a great show with Lonnie Shorr. And I had a great time. And do you want to say anything, Al?
Yes, I just want to say, if you like my act, you have Lonnie Shorr to thank for. If you don't like my act, please don't take it out on the man, okay? It's not his fault.
All right, everybody. Where are you going to be, Al? Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be at Port St. Lucie. I think you did it with at that place, that country club for Larry Silver.
Oh, I don't think I did the country club yet. Oh, we were supposed to, and I don't know what happened. Something happened.
And then Saturday, I'm doing the library for Gordon Myers.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Good.
You hooked me up with that. You hooked me up with that.
Yeah, it's going to be, and we'll talk. Okay. So, everybody, thank you for watching, and good night.